Rise and ground, folks. What we have here is another video. This is AC maintenance on a 3-ton Linux 14 series unit. This thing was put in 2016, so it's about 5 to 6 years old. And I'm making this video here. This unit is working fine, but I'm making this video to explain to you guys the scenario and if this AC unit was tripping a breaker, how you guys will go about diagnosing it and figuring out exactly what's going on. First things first, guys, if the AC unit is tripping a breaker, you'll have to go back inside. This isn't a fuse disconnect box. You have to go back inside and turn the breaker back on. But guys, most importantly, before you turn the breaker on, open up this unit and inspect your wires. As you can see, this capacitor is still brand new. This capacitor was installed last year. But first things first, guys, what I want to do is I want to visually inspect my electrical component area, make sure no wires are burnt up inside the capacitor and contactor area. Second, guys, I will pop the top to make sure that the terminals on the compressor, nothing's burnt up there, because guys, a compressor 9 times out of 10 will be the primary issue for your breaker tripping. Because remember, guys, your compressor, which is, you know, the heart of your AC system, this is what's going to draw the most amps on your unit, on your condenser unit. Your fan motor is going to draw like a minuscule amount of amps. If your fan motor is, if your condenser fan motor is drawing a high amount of amps, then that's a telltale sign that maybe someone installed the wrong size motor. But guys, most of the time, trip breakers will be a compressor related issue. But before you guys condemn compressors, always visually inspect the wires coming out of the compressor, make sure the terminals are still intact, and also inspect the wires from the compressor that's going to your electrical component area, meaning the contactor and the capacitor. And another thing you guys can do, let's say, I'm gonna give you a random scenario here. Let's say if the customer says that the breaker trips every couple of days, meaning it doesn't trip instantly, grab a multimeter and look at the panel, and this will tell you exactly what the amp should be on the nominal day with the compressor and the fan motor. And guys, what you do, locate your star winding from your compressor and your fan, and just take an amp draw. This will happen to be 6 amps, and it's only about 70 degrees out here right now, and this is totally fine. My running low amps, my RLA is only 14.1, and this is definitely below my running low amps. Now, let's say this thing was like 20 amps, if my actual amps was 20 and my running low was 14, at that point, you could try one or two things. You could try installing a hard start kit, guys, but I will always recommend, and you guys heard me say this before, I will always recommend hard start kits on AC units past 5 years to help the efficiency of the compressor. But guys, one thing you need to understand is that hard start kits aren't always guaranteed on some compressors. Like, based on this scenario, if this compressor was drawing high amps on a mild day, at that point, guys, it's up to you to educate the customer and let them know that this compressor is probably, maybe the windings internally are intermittently, like, say, going out. But if the customer tells you that the breaker is tripping every 3 or 4 days, at that point, guys, based on the amps, you know, if the amps are higher than normal, and of course the age of the unit, if the system is past a certain age, it might be best to just replace the unit. You could try replacing the compressor, but, you know, guys, just due to the cost of the compressor, it's probably going to be close to the same as replacing this whole outside unit. But guys, there you have it. And another thing, you could take the total amp draw of the unit, but taking the total amp draw of the unit will always lead you back towards individually checking that compressor. Because remember, guys, the total amp draw of the unit is simply just a combination of the fan motor and the compressor running together. But remember, guys, your fan motor is only going to draw a minuscule amount of amps. So for instance, my running low amps on the condenser fan motor is 1.0, and I'm only at a 0.6, 0.7. So that isn't enough to really cause much of a difference. Your biggest thing you want to check is the amps on the compressor. And like I said, no matter the temperature, you just definitely want to make sure that compressor is pulling a decent amount of amps. You don't want it to draw high amps, because that's a good sign that compressor is on its way out, even though it's running. So there you guys have it. If the breaker trips, you know, you don't automatically condemn the unit. You always want to make sure it's not burnt up wires. But guys, if the wires are okay and the amps are higher than normal on the compressor, then it may be best to just replace the unit. So peace out. I'll see you in the next one.